Hey there, how's it going? My name's Riley, and in this video, I want to address the question, how do I pick the right domain name for my business? And this is something that I see a lot when it comes to working with brand new businesses. They're wanting to multitask and find their domain name, but also get something built out so that when they have it, they already have a website built. And that's typically what I see. So in this video, I wanted to, like I said, answer the question, how do I find that domain name for my business? What's going to represent my business once I get it off the ground and going forward? So the first thing that I want to mention here is just how to pick it. And it's important not to overcomplicate this process. Just keep it simple. Don't go too long, and that's really one of the most important things. If you have a paragraph of a domain name, it's going to be incredibly difficult to get people to remember what that name is. And that's going to be my next thing that I talk about here. But just keeping it within the 5 or 10 character range and 15 at the very most. You do not want a long domain name. Now, it's especially important to not fall into this trap if you have a difficulty finding a domain name that is available to use. If you're trying to stick with a domain name, let's say you found a kind of a segment of a domain name that you absolutely loved. If you just keep adding things to it, that's when you fall into the trap of having an absurdly long domain name. And I would highly recommend do not fall into that trap. Go a different direction. The next thing is sticking along those lines is keeping it memorable. And I see a lot of businesses going the opposite direction and going with the keywords route. Landscaping AZ, landscaping TX. So having the keyword for the service that they offer and then the acronym for the state that they service. That is a very sticky trap when you fall into it, because not only is it not very memorable, but you're also going to have a ton of other competitors popping up around you. And if your customer forgets your name or they mistype it, they may end up on a competitor's website, and that's something you do not want. So I highly recommend, if you plan on taking this to the next level, if you have a vision to take your business to the big game, I highly recommend that you go a different route and find something that you can stick your business behind, something that's memorable, something that it is unique, something where there's not a high risk of customers mistaking you for a competitor. And that is a very bad thing to happen. So something like City Turf or Turfworks or a True Green, those are creative names around their business, and you won't see competitors copying those names. And then the final thing is using the right top-level domain. That just means .com, .net, .org, .pizza, .beer, all of those different names. You want to make sure that you're using the right one, and .com by far and away is the one to go with. Now, if you find that you just cannot find a domain name that you love that also uses .com, it may be worth considering .net or .org in that order. But I would highly recommend that you really try and find a domain name in the .com area. If at the very end you cannot find something, that's when I would recommend considering .net and .org. So the next thing that I want to talk about here, now that we've kind of talked about some of the best practices, would be where to actually go and buy your domain name, as well as checking to see if it's available. And that would be one of the most important things, checking if it's available, seeing if it's even a possibility to get your domain name. And typically, the two places that I hear the most are GoDaddy and Namecheap. Those are the two places to get a domain name that I just hear typically the most when talking to business owners, other web designers, things along those lines. So those are the two places that you can check both of those boxes. So that was a super easy question, or a super simple answer to that question. So moving on here, and this is kind of a special scenario here. And this is when you find a domain name that you love, you want to go with it, but you find that someone has already bought it, but they're reselling it. And this is a very tempting thing to potentially buy it and just fork over the money. And I want to just kind of advise you to pause and think about it for a second. I had a case with a client that I'm working with here where he ran into this exact scenario where he found a domain name that he absolutely loved, but someone is selling his domain name for $2,500. And this is something where you just pause and think about it. Do not immediately go grab your credit card and pay that $2,500. You want to first ask yourself, okay, how long, well, first thing, how long am I going to have this business? Is this something as a side project where I make do a few projects here and there? Or is this something that I really want to take to the next level, where I really want to create a brand and an identity behind this business and take it and keep it for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Is this something that you want to stick with for a long time? And this is incredibly important when you're first starting out. In some cases, this may be someone who's had their business for 10 years and wants to rebrand it. That becomes a different question, but I'm specifically talking to the brand new businesses who may run into this scenario. And if you are someone who's had tons of experience in the industry and you're just starting a new business and you are confident that you can get this thing off the ground, that you can drive in customers, that you can start bringing in the big bucks and repay that cost or cover that cost, then it may be worth considering it, because if it's a really great domain name, it'll stand for your business, people can remember it, it's easy to spell, it's short, then that's when it comes to really maybe considering paying for it. But if you are brand new to the business, you don't have any experience, you don't have really any marketing experience in this field, and you're not, getting started here, you're not super confident that you're going to be able to get it off the ground quickly and cover that cost, it'll just leave a hole in your bank account, then I would highly recommend backing away from that deal and holding off till later once you've started getting some momentum. It's always an option to get an available domain name, and then later on down the road you can come back and purchase it later and almost rebrand your business. That is totally an option, so I don't want you to feel stuck where if you don't buy it, you can never have it again. It's always an option to come back. Now, there are some things that you need to watch out for when doing that, and then the biggest one is SEO. If you rebrand your business, it's like changing your name in real life. People aren't going to know who you are. Google's going to lose you. They're going to see, hey, you were once called Landscaping AZ, but now you're called this name over here, and they won't recognize you anymore. So it's one thing to just watch out for, but there are things to avoid those downsides. So really, that's everything that I wanted to talk about here. Hopefully this is helpful. And just as a quick summary, the main thing was keeping your domain name short and simple, making sure it's memorable, making sure that you're using the right protocol. So really focusing in on .com, and if there's no case that you can get it, get .com or .net or .org. Those are the other two top-level domain names that you should consider that are fairly popular within domain names on Google or the search engines. And then beyond that, finding a place where you can buy the domain name, GoDaddy or Namecheap. Those are the two places that I hear the most. And then the last thing, which I just talked about, if you have a lot of experience in the industry and you are confident that you can get your business off the ground, maybe consider forking over that money and getting that domain name that's going to properly represent your business. But if you're brand new to the industry, I would recommend holding off on spending that money. So anyway, that's about it. Hopefully this was helpful, and I hope to talk to you in the next video. See ya.